Welcome back to another edition of the Foursquare Show. I am the assassin Eric Costanza, and with me, we have a new face on the show here today, Mr. Joe Costa. Now, your last name and my last name, so Costanza, Costa, this is how we actually, well, not how, but one of the things that we recognized just a few days ago at the World Championships. In addition to your incredible play and your amazing officiating, your last name, Costa, you mentioned that at one point your last name, I think, got shortened. Your ancestors, you're Italian, you're Sicilian, as am I.
Yep.
We might be brothers.
We might be related.
We might be related.
Honestly, I'd be very much okay with that.
Same. Joe, if you could tell our listeners, our watchers, a little bit about yourself, where you're from, what you do, and how you got into Foursquares.
Of course. Hello, everyone. As Eric said, my name is Joe. I live in Lisbon, Maine. I'm an electrical engineer for a consulting firm, and I design substations for electrical utilities. And I've been playing Foursquare. So during the championship, I was telling people I've been playing for about 15 years, but I really got to think about it the other day, and it's probably closer to 17 years. I started playing freshman year of high school, and in a couple, probably sophomore year, maybe junior year, found out about the Foursquare Championship. So since then, I've been trying to make it. Um, I think I made it to at least 6 or 7 of them, and that's my Foursquare thing. Outside of Foursquare and engineering, I love riding motorcycles. I love working on cars, trucks, etc. Home improvement projects. I'm kind of like a jack of all trades, and I love Star Wars. I love Harry Potter. So I'm kind of a well-rounded nerd, if you will.
Fellow nerd here. Thank you for that, Joe. Have quite a bit of home projects here that I might take you up on because I am not so handy, although I've had to learn on the fly myself. But by the way, I don't know if this ever got brought up in our previous shows. Fellow Star Wars nerd here as well, and Joe and I were talking offline, and Revenge of the Sith is was its 20th anniversary. That's going to be coming to theaters here pretty soon, so I'm looking forward to that.
April 23rd. Nope, excuse me. April 24th. It hits the Regal Cinemas.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to be going, likely bringing the kids to see that. So you mentioned that you got into by the way, you might hear me say Foursquares, plural. That's just the way that I got brought up in referring to the game, but I know it's more commonly known as Foursquare. I've been trying to change my verbiage there, but you mentioned that you got into it around freshman year of high school.
Yep.
Curious how? Like, was it a friend's thing, or
yep.
like how?
Honestly, one of my friends, he was playing, and after he had gotten done, we happened to meet up later in the day. He's like, dude, you got to go play this game. I'm like, what game? Foursquare. What is it? And he kind of explained it to me. And so I think it was the next day during lunch. We happened to go out, and brief tangent, because it's actually part of the story. In high school, we had round table or homeroom and lunch at the same time. So like first period lunch would have been freshmen, juniors, and that same first period would have been round table homeroom for sophomore, seniors. And then it flip-flopped for the second period for everyone. And so sometimes, the homeroom students would be outside playing Foursquare while we had lunch. So that's pretty much how we all got to playing. So yeah, I went out, tried the game, fell in love with it, and we played in the morning before classes, during lunch, homeroom time, and then senior year, I actually made a Foursquare club.
Love it. Love it. Love that. My oldest daughter, Trista, who is currently a freshman at the University of Maine.
Oh, I am an alumni of UMaine.
Beautiful. All right. while her and I were going to various schools a year or two ago when we were trying to figure out where she was going to go, one of the things that kept getting popped up was, and not just at UMaine, but at any school, hey, you can join all these clubs, and if there's a club that don't see here, you can create one.
Yep.
So of course, I was kind of nudging her to, hey, why don't you start a Foursquare club? But she may not be as passionate about it as I am. But I love the fact that you started that, Joe. It sounds like in your high school there. Um, and you mentioned you've been to various world championships,
Yep.
and I know we talked a little bit about this when we met the other day. But you returned. It's I think since previously it was COVID when there was a hiatus for a couple years, and then it came back in 2023. But this was your first time returning. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yep. That is
Okay.
correct.
And I believe you looked familiar. I may have seen pictures or videos or something from back when you used to compete.
Yes.
Um,
I happen
uh,
to on the YouTube, I happen to come across a video from 2012, which was the only year I made it to finals.
okay. Yep,
So
the
I kind of
championship.
watched
Yeah.
myself play, and it was like a lot of things stood out. Just the gameplay and just honestly, 13-year difference
Yeah.
of size. So
Yeah. Yeah.
it was cool to watch
Yeah.
and
Yeah. No.
very nostalgic.
Well, I'm sure, and I know, and again, we were talking a little bit about this. It's since 2023, it's been at the Bridgeton Town Hall, which it was again this past weekend. By the way, folks, we are going to take a deep dive and get into all the wonderful things that occurred this past weekend. But
Yes.
obviously, I want to spend some time us all getting to know Joe here. So, um, yeah, it's been at the town hall, and but you had mentioned, and I think I was aware, it had previously been, I think, at Bridgeton Academy, which I think is
Yes.
their high school at a bit of a larger venue
Yes.
facility. So, um, I know that that's something we probably are going to look into going forward because we had a great turnout, and as great as it was, that was maybe one of the things that got a little dicey was the lack of room in the area we were in. What was the biggest kind of I don't know, takeaway from you coming back, maybe compared to the events that used to occur? Was it smaller? Was it bigger? Was it better? Was it
So,
worse? So what would you say?
um, I mean, if we're doing comparisons, the this year actually probably the first time it's in over 8 years, probably the most amount of people I've seen
Mm,
at most, if not almost the most amount. Because the last
hmm
time I had went, we didn't have nearly as many people. I think we might have hit somewhere between 60 to 80 people the last time I had
hmm
competed.
Yeah,
And so first off, personnel turnout, amazing. Thank you
yeah.
to everyone who did come out. Um, Gameplay is almost the same.
hmm
I mean, I don't want to start getting into rules or anything right now,
Yeah,
but
yeah,
the rules were slightly different. And
yeah,
then the venue, which, as
yeah,
you mentioned, it's much smaller,
yeah, yeah,
which I think we'll probably talk about that a little bit later
yeah,
in the show. But yeah,
yeah.
pretty
Great.
much a lot of people this year compared to past years that I've been to. Venue much smaller, gameplay mostly similar to what I'm used to.
Yeah, awesome. Yeah, thank you for that. I was always curious. I know that there every now and then are like last year, the Mark Pryor. I know he's a multiple time champion. So he had played in the past, and the year before that, Tiger Claw Christian. I know he's a
Tiger
staple that.
Claw.
Yeah, yeah. He unfortunately hasn't come the last couple of years. I hope he makes a valiant return one of these times. But yeah, I'm always curious how it is compared to previous years, since again I've only started a few
I
years ago.
mean, like I said, we can discuss that more later.
Yeah, yeah. Okay.
Only because like a lot of the things that I noticed kind of have to do with some of the topics we're going to
Okay.
discuss.
Yeah. So we'll
So
get into all that then. Yeah. I do want to just point out I am shocked and well, I'm shocked one that you didn't make the championship round this year because when I saw you playing in the first round, I'm like, okay, he's going to be one of the ones at the end. I'm myself uh, confident enough in my game where I'm like, okay, I'm gonna hope to make it to the end. He's gonna be one of the guys I got to look out for. Um, you know, there's a lot of factors and things that
Oh,
get involved, which we'll get into, which
yes.
probably played a part with with you not making it. But I just wanted to state I mean, you seem like a pretty humble guy, which is great. You're very good. um,
I greatly appreciate
yeah,
that, but I'm okay in the game, but definitely with 8 years of rust and
that'll do it.
multitude of
Yeah.
injuries
Hmm.
in with those 8 years. Um I coming in, I was like, I'm not expecting anything. I'm just gonna come
Hmm.
and play and
Yeah.
see what happens. I'm hoping to see some familiar faces, which I saw honestly less than a handful.
Yeah. Wow.
Um
Wow. Yeah.
the women's champion,
Yep. Brittany, I think
Brittany.
it is. Yep.
Yep,
Six-time
she
now champion. She is
I know.
incredible. We gotta have her on the
Yes.
show. Brittany, if
I
you're listening, reach out. I mean, it sounds like Joe,
Oh,
you probably
I'm
can.
gonna share this. I'll share this with her.
Okay. All right.
Um, but one thing I do want, this is a massive tangent. So I'll try to make it quick. But
You're
one
good.
thing, a comparison I kind of just made was, so we had a lot of kids.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of them wore this like red shirt.
Yeah.
I don't know where they're. So that reminded me of back in the day when I first started coming to these championships was University of New England in Biddeford, UNE. So when I started coming to these, UNE actually had a four square team.
Ooh.
I'm talking upwards of 15 people.
Ooh.
Eric,
Wow.
if you think I'm good, my guy, I'm nothing compared to some of these UN the guys and girls from UNE
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
they were amazing.
Yeah.
The really great people too.
Hmm.
Actually, they had
Hmm.
invited me to come to UNE to compete with them,
Hmm.
practice and whole 9 yards.
Yeah.
Um, but for a good 2 to 3 years, they had a stable presence at the championship, and it was amazing.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Yeah, the folks in the that you were reference to that were in the red shirts. That's actually the big crew that came, I believe, from where were they from? Whitefield, Lincoln Academy. I think that's what it was. I think Whitefield might be the town and Lincoln Academy, I want to say,
Interesting.
is the school, which is in
Okay.
Maine. It's not, it's a good couple hours away, I think, from Bridgeton. But
Oh wow.
and yeah, Judy, who we had on the show before, and she was there and she brought her crew of man, there must have what probably 20 to 30 kids, plus parents and spectators
Yep.
that came. They all had their red shirts on and um yeah, I love seeing that. Um, okay. So just a quick reflection. We've kind of already touched upon some of this. Some quick reflections of this past weekend's championship. First of all, the weather. Come on. Really? Really?
Well,
April, we're gonna have snow? I mean,
Eric, in past years, every time we've had this event, it's always been snowing or there was a good amount of snow. So
yeah,
I will gladly take the rain.
you'll take that. All right. Well, I mean, it used to be what in February, if I'm remembering
Correct.
correctly, and
Typically
I
the first or second weekend of February.
yeah, yeah, yeah. So, all right, you know what? Glass half full. I like that. It's not as bad as it could have been. Um, I mean, I don't think it didn't slow anyone down. It didn't stop anyone, I don't think. But yeah, yeah. So just to give a little nugget of the environment of the day, we had talked about this earlier, but to give more specifics, we had 60 pre-registered people,
Wow.
which is the most that we've had since I've been involved. I don't know how that might compare to previous years, but it sounds like from what you're saying, it might be
I
comparable, if not
don't
more.
We never did pre-reg back in the day. At
Oh,
least not
okay.
that I
You just showed up.
remember.
Yeah.
It was always through the website. Like
Yep.
they'll post, this is when we're having
This
it.
is where,
Hope to
and
see
then
you
people
there.
just come. Yep.
And
Yep.
exactly.
Well, yeah, 60 pre-registers, and then we also had 33 people do what you just mentioned and show up and just register and come and compete that day. So that's carry the four, that's carry the three, that's 93 people of all four divisions. However, as well as I do, we have folks that come just to watch, parents, spectators. I think I saw a couple people just poke their head in, like, what's going on in there? So I'm sure we had well over 100 people in
Oh,
total, for
I'm gonna
sure.
be
Yeah.
honest, the amount of people, including spectators, in that one venue, I think we're honestly over capacity.
Yeah,
But
yeah. Let's not have the authorities and we need to get a code and get
yeah,
fined and all that stuff. But yeah, yeah, yeah. So that's great. I was going to mention this with Dan on, but a thing that may have played a part into the amount of folks that came is the fact that in the main Sun Journal, both Dan and I were part of a little story that promoted the World Championships. So there was a little write up in the main Sun Journal last
okay.
week, kind of promoting the championships. So that was kind of cool to have Dan and I get a little media action there. Um,
Hmm.
and I do want to give a shout out to well, I mean, I'm sure we all did. Again, that's part of all this. It's not just the competition. I mean, it's the competition is fun,
Right.
and that's part of it as well. But a large aspect to this, as I think we've covered in previous shows, and again, it absolutely rung true again with this past event, is just the camaraderie, the meeting people with this same quirky love, that this hobby that we have. I obviously meeting you, Joe. I love the fact that you're hopefully you're going to be part of the show here going forward. Oh, by the way, we did not kick Dan out. I'm just thinking of
No.
this right now. Dan is not like out in some gutter. He's not like stranded up in Maine
Nope.
or something. He was going to join us, and we were going to kind of have a three-way try co-hosting situation, but he had a little situation come up with one of his daughters, so he is being a dad and tending to that. He actually may join possibly here at any moment, and if he does, great. If not, then next time
And
Dan will be back and with
just
us.
gonna piggyback off of that. Viewers,
Yeah.
his daughter is perfectly fine.
Yes.
Just
Yes.
a
He
little
is.
minor
Yes.
issue. That's all.
Yep, no emergencies there. Everything's okay. Thank you. But yeah, so meeting I met Brayson, I believe that's his name, Brayson, and his mom. They came from North Carolina. Brayson was
Okay.
14 years old. Super super passionate about Foursquare. I love seeing it, especially at that kind of younger age.
Yes.
I was talking to him, and I guess he plays at home, at school, with friends. He said he's going to bring more people next time. He was in the kid division, the boys division. I forget where he finished. I want to say maybe fourth, fifth place. He did really well. And he won one of the kind of good competitor awards and medals, which I kind of compare that. I don't know if you're an NFL fan, Joe, but I kind of compare those like good competitor medal awards to like the what is it, the Man of the Year award in the NFL.
Okay.
So it's not necessarily not the best player. I mean, the best player is
Right.
probably the one who wins, but you were the best competitor. You did the most, maybe, you when you were
Yep.
out, you left. Cheered on other folks. You clapped. You were there helping and giving praise to other people, and
Hmm.
he definitely was doing that, and that's just great to see.
Yeah.
Um,
That's really good.
yeah,
Competitor etiquette.
absolutely, absolutely. Which, by the way, I think we're going to get into that as well a little bit. Maybe a little bit on the other end of that, but that's okay. Um, let's see. I'm looking at my agenda. Yeah, I mean, I think those were kind of, let's see. Of course, Judy was there. I mentioned her earlier. She's been on the show before. She helped out quite a bit in making sure especially the kids were where they needed to be. The line
Yep.
was situated the way it needed to be. She brought a megaphone, which was very helpful because I
Yes.
don't have the loudest of voices, which, by the way, you assisted me a couple of times getting everybody's attention. So thank you for all that.
No
Um,
problem.
Chris. I met Chris there. I don't know if you remembered Chris, Joe. I know there were a lot of people, but he was a fellow senior like me, over 40. I don't forget how old he was, but in his 40s. And I believe, yeah, he made it to the championship round as well. He was a really good player. He brought his son, and
Oh, yes. Was he
yeah,
the? Okay, I think I know who you're talking about.
yeah. He uh he seemed to have a great time, and he actually emailed me just a little while ago, and I want to read a quote because
Okay.
it just made me so happy. He said that, I'm going to quote him, "It was a lot of fun reliving my glory days in the schoolyard. I haven't played with anyone other than my boys since I was in grade school. Thank you for that." So no, thank you, Chris. That's makes us so happy that that's a lot of what we're doing here is
Yeah.
um yeah, I mean, for me,
It's
Foursquare, a big time off to create a family and get into my career and got
yep.
back into it. And, I can definitely relate to that. So, sorry, Joe, you were going to say something.
No, it's Foursquare is a way to it's one way to bring the community together
Mhm.
in a fun, competitive manner. Not saying like other sports doesn't do that, but Foursquare is a way to be able to bring people of all different ages to come play.
Yeah. Yep.
So
Absolutely. Yep. And then, of course, Peter Lowell, who put all of this together 20 years ago. Apparently, he started with tennis balls. I don't know if yeah, it's what I heard. I kind of had the same reaction. I don't think that's what occurred in like the first ever World Championships, but I think that's what he was doing when he was playing
hmm,
Foursquare. He's
interesting.
an older gentleman, so I'm not sure what was going
Yeah.
on there, but he partnered with I think a few other folks with the at the square4.org. I think we covered
Yes.
this in previous shows, and yeah, this was the 20th year, not consecutively again because of COVID, but
Yep.
I was happy to kind of give him a very well-deserved little plaque there for all the service
He
he's done over the years.
he deserves it.
Absolutely. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't have any of this. And um, something that he mentioned, yeah, he had mentioned this. I want to mention this to Dan as well. So remind me if he does join or next time. But he did say to Dan and I that he thinks that we have really reinvigorated the game of Foursquare with the show and a lot of what
Yep.
we're doing here, and we're just a small part. But I really appreciate his acknowledgement there because I think we're all super passionate about it. So
Yeah.
and then of course, as always, bringing my son CJ, he's 9. I was so proud of him. He made it to the championship round in the kids division. He was the youngest one, I think, or one of the youngest ones that made it. He ended up
Awesome.
coming in, I think, about 10th place. And again, I similar to what you were saying earlier, Joe. I told both of my kids. Des came as well. Desiree, she's 11. She did a great job. She tried her best, and she's not the most athletic. She is a dancer, but she's not the most athletic
Hmm.
of our families. But she had a great time as well. And I told them going into it, I'm like, just try your best, have fun, be a good competitor. If you when you get out, everyone's gonna get out. When you get out, even if you don't agree with it, just go into the line. I think we can probably teach some of the adults that, Joe, in regards to your
You know,
officiating, which we'll get to. We'll get to. But yeah, that was fantastic. So I think that, I mean, we're a half an hour here into the show. We're going to probably go another half an hour, but that pretty much, I think, recaps everything that we wanted to
yep.
just get in on. But now we have specific agenda items that we want to talk through. I think, speaking of reffing, so Joe, honestly, it just happened. It genuinely, I was as you know, there's a lot going on.
Oh
There's
God,
a
yeah.
lot of people asking questions. Where do I go? What do I do? We try to be as organized as we can. And I'm a project manager. That's what I do for my. I'm not a professional Foursquare player, unfortunately. So maybe someday we'll get there, Joe. But
I
um,
mean, we have a podcast and we have a championship, going
yeah,
on. So
it's just a matter of time, right?
exactly.
Just gonna get like Nike to sponsor us or something. But um, So yeah, I mean, we try to be as organized as we can, but sometimes it's like, oh shit, yeah, sorry, shoot, we need to have an official here for the for the girls division because we got one for the boys, we got one for the women, but so anyway, came up to you and just kind of on a whim asked you, and you obviously you accepted and helped out there, so thank you for that.
Not a problem.
Um, and I got to say, you did a fantastic job because not only did you do that, but then you ended up officiating the men's championship round, which
Yep,
obviously is a little bit more competitive. So
of course.
you being able to do that went a long way. So what were your, I don't know, what any insight, any takes on that you want to, I know we have a couple things we want to touch upon here,
Yep.
which I'll bring up, but anything that you wanted to start off with there?
You know, repping is fun and whatnot, and being a rep, you have to be able to stand your ground and be
Mm,
honest with the competitors. You know, call it as you see it, and if you couldn't tell what the infraction is or what have you, be honest with them and get
yeah,
a general consensus. And if you still can't make a call off of that, you know, do the showdown or what have
yep,
you. Otherwise, competitors got to be respectful to the refs. It's okay to chirp at them or have a disagreement, but at the end of the day, ref call.
yeah. That there you go. I love and I think we mentioned this while we were there. Half the battle when you're officiating is at least being confident in your call and being honest, like you said, because we're all human and
Yep.
we're trying our best and if we see something, that's what we see and that's what it is. And there's different angles and different
Oh
lighting
God, yeah, and
situations.
that's
And
the thing. It's
yeah.
one of the biggest issues is, you know, I think we're gonna bring this up in a little bit, but inside lines are out and the outside lines, which is, the outer perimeter of the
Yeah.
court, is in. And sometimes depending on where you're standing, you may not see that ball hit the
Yeah.
line. It looks like it was out. Reality, it was hitting the line, and it's like, nope,
Yeah.
that's out. Well,
Yeah.
no, that looked in. It's like I'm not from here.
Right.
I One more quick tangent. Um, I This is when I was honest with the competitors.
Yeah.
The ball hit the ground right next to a competitor's foot.
Hmm.
The competitor's leg blocked my view of where it
Hmm.
actually hit. And I
Hmm.
said, guys, I couldn't see.
Hmm.
Like, and they're all like, what do you mean you couldn't see? You were right there, blah, blah, blah.
Hmm.
And I said,
Hmm.
guys, leg was blocking me.
Hmm.
Who saw it? It's like, that was line. Are you sure that was line? Yep.
Hmm.
All right. You're in. Oh,
Yep.
you missed it, but you're out. But, you
Yep.
know,
Yep. Yep. No, and
that's how it goes.
that's there. That's right. That's how it goes. That's the only. I mean, until someday maybe we have two refs that three refs at all different angles, or we have instant replay or all that stuff, which you know, not sure that'll ever happen, but hey, you never know. So no, again, I think that you handled all that very well. Um, there's there is a note in here in our agenda. I think Dan wanted to mention in regards to carrying, so we'll hold off on that until he's here. Unless Joe, you had something with that.
I've seen quite a bit of carry,
Okay. Yeah.
and it's um I'm not gonna deny it. I saw quite even in the championships,
Hmm.
there was so much of it, especially in the younger kids
Yeah.
championships. But it's how often it happens. It's I didn't want to keep stopping.
Yeah.
Like, no, carry. And it's like every 30 seconds you gotta stop because they're
Yeah.
carrying it.
Yeah.
Um
I know what
so
I noticed a little. I didn't see it too much in the boy because I officiated the boys championship round. I did see a little bit, and I think one time I saw it, I gave a warning to that,
yep,
to that person, like, hey, you gotta watch the carries. If you do that again, I'm gonna have to call you out. Um, and but yeah, maybe you all saw it a little bit more than I did. So yeah, I think that's something that we just need to kind of be aware of because you're right. We don't want to stop it all the time, but at the same time, you got to kind of set the
tone.
groundwork and set the precedence because hey, we got to play the right
Yep,
way. Otherwise, everyone's gonna be carrying all the
correct.
time.
And a lot of that is where how people play at home.
Right. Yep. Yeah.
Because like some of the rules we were playing by were slightly different than rules the competitors were playing back where they're from. So
Yeah, I mean, I think this is something we've discussed on previous show. I've certainly had to adapt a lot. I mean, I think we already know, like, that's one of the things about Foursquare is that there are just so many variances and rules and way that people play. I mean, you go in YouTube Foursquare, you'll see so many different things that out there. It's like, oh, what? That's how they play. So, and I mean, that's a good thing and it's a bad thing. And when we all get together for the World Championships, obviously there just needs to be some set of rules that we need to go by. Speaking of that, next item here is in regards to the lines or the ball, the ball hitting the inside line or the ball landing out of the outside line. Again, this is something that I think Dan brought up, but I think we can speak to it. So he had mentioned that he felt as if that there was a good, and this is absolutely no knock on you again because you were officiating, but there was a good amount of times in which the ball, there was a line call. I mean, there should be. If the ball hits the inside line, then there should be a line call. However, he was trying to think of ways that we can reduce that from happening because it does take away from maybe a good volley. One thing that he started talking about, like, oh, if it hits maybe an inside line should be in. I definitely disagree with that because, I mean, it's like tennis or like ping pong. The ball hits the net, you're out. Like
right.
that's part of the game. No offense, Dan. That's just how I feel. But no qualms bringing it up. However, um, oh, and the other thing is if it does hit an inside line and it's in, does that mean both guys can get it? Like that's going to cause issues. Anyway,
Exactly.
yeah. But Chris, actually, I mentioned him earlier. Chris had mentioned to me that he felt, and I think he was right. I didn't notice it at the time. Apparently, he took a deep dive into the website and into the rules, and I guess it said that the line should be 1 inch thick. He said, and he didn't break out a ruler or anything, but he said that the lines look to be more like 2 inches thick. Peter is the one who tapes the courts beforehand. And I'm sure Peter's not, again, cranking out a ruler and make sure it's all exactly official. But maybe that's something that we can just keep a little bit of an eye out on next year and going forward is ensuring that the lines are like maybe it's I don't know, I think you use duct tape, maybe cut the duct tape in half and then use that as the
I know in
lines.
past years we were using painter's tape, like 3M
Okay.
painter's tape. I think they were typically the 1 or 2 inch. Um, but
Okay. Yep.
it's my ruling on that is if I see a line, I go to call it, but if they continue to play, I'm gonna let it slide. If it's a significant play period. So I'm not saying it was a line and they played for like another 2 to 3 hits, um, I'll call it. But if it's going on like another 40 plus seconds, I'm gonna let that line slide. That's
So
typically how
yeah,
I go.
yeah. I think we this is probably going to be a good thing for you, me, and Dan to talk about because I feel like there should be a precedence there, and one way or another, whether either it's the ball hits a line and it's everybody plays it, so then keep going, or it's the ball hits a line, even if because I think I made this announcement as well. Play it, right? No matter what. And then the official will make the call even if you played it. Um because so yeah, anyway, I think that's something we need to I'm thinking through all my thoughts here with this, but I think that we need to think through that a little bit. Because I think that the official rule is that if it hits a line, even if it's being played by the person who would need to hit it, if it wasn't a
Yep.
line, then and somebody calls a line, which would be the official, or the rest of the line, or the other competitors all agree that it's a line, then that guy is out. Um, so yeah. What was the other thing I was going? Oh, if I feel like the other thing is too is that it should, and maybe you already do this. If the ball, it has to be like what almost 100% just blatant. So if the ball like looks like it just like nicks the inside line versus it landing like right on in the middle of the line, I feel like that should be let go. Like if it should be right in the middle of the inside line versus just like kind of tapping like the I don't know. Does that make sense? Or do
No,
you
it
agree to
does.
that? Okay.
Um, when I was reffing, there was a lot of where it's like it was just nicking the inside
Hmm.
line, and
Hmm.
it's like I'm not gonna count that.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
if I saw a true break in the line, whether it was the ball was a third, like a third of the ball was on the line or something,
Hmm.
I would call it. Like
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
me, it's got. I don't want to say it was blatant, but
Hmm.
if I saw a good break where it's like, oh, that looked like it definitely hit line,
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
will call it because it kind of goes back to what we were saying before, different angles.
Yeah.
Like if I see, depending on where I'm standing, at the two squares in front of me here, um, and one of them are hitting the ball
Yeah.
towards the other two, I can see, okay, the ball may have hit the line, but obviously from my perspective, the line's broken because of the ball
Right.
itself. Now, if I was on the other side of the court, maybe that's not the case. Maybe it was their own square. Might
Hmm.
have been line. Again, it's all about perspective, and this kind of
Hmm.
goes to player etiquette and expectations.
Hmm. Yep. Yep. I totally agree. More to come on that. I'm sure Dan wants to kind of chime in a little bit, so
Yep.
we'll circle back a little bit on that topic. Next thing is gameplay tactics, teaming up, collaboration. So, by the way, this agenda that we're going through right now, this is almost separate than our normal agenda that we have had and for in our other shows. This is just spawning off of the most recent World Championships. These are things that just happened that we want to make sure we cover and talk through, and then we'll circle back and talk about all the other things, just so you all know the little peek behind the curtain. Um, okay, teaming up. I believe Dan saw some of this in some of the officiating that he was part of. I know my son mentioned that that was happening a little bit. I think that it's only natural, honestly, to happen sometimes. And there may not really be anything wrong with that, depending on how it happens. I do think that in the men, and I want your
Yep.
perception as well, Joe, in a moment. But I do want to say that in the men's division, in the championship round specifically, and I do have some game footage that I may or may not have reviewed. I felt like Blue Chips, that movie where they were like trying to figure out if people were throwing the game. Anyway, there were a couple. I don't want to name names and all that. And again, I could be way off. But there were definitely times, people who just know each other, brothers, whatever, that may, you have an opportunity to get somebody out very easily, especially people who were getting people out in a way that we'll get to in a moment when it comes to slamming, that maybe didn't do that to certain people, but did it to others. And it may have been a little, again, if you're sneaky about it, they definitely were sneaky about it. So you couldn't call it. You couldn't say, whoa, 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 you could have slammed that and you only hit it at 60%, So there's no way of really kind of judging that, I guess. So not much you can do about it, to be
No,
honest
it
with you. But what are your
what
what are your thoughts, Joe?
so I was talking to the women's championship about this,
Yeah.
Brittany. So, you know, in a way, yeah, you could technically team up, and if people can find who are the better players,
Hmm.
and you're trying to get to the championship,
Hmm.
yeah, you team up and trying to get the better players out.
Hmm. Hmm.
Um, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really. I don't want to say it doesn't matter, but with the current rules, where you're trying not to get out, eh, how do I say, teaming up is neither going to hurt nor help you, I
Yeah.
guess.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, it's a still, you know,
You
you're
still need
playing
to
for yourself.
survive. Right,
Yeah, it's
right.
it all comes back to you.
Yeah.
Back in the previous rules where you um earn points via serves,
Hmm.
um, oh, there was so much teaming up because everyone was trying to go for Foursquare.
Absolutely. You should team up in those rules. And that was part, and we took a deep, Joe, again, forgive me. I don't know if you have listened to any of the
I've
previous
seen
shows.
a couple
Okay, yeah. So Dan and I spent almost an entire show
talking
talking
about that.
about, yeah, talking about the different, because this is back when we determined whether, well, no, I forget if we determined, made the rule change at that point or not, but we took a deep dive into points per serve versus the outs. So we have a whole show dedicated to that. But
Yep,
yeah, I mean, the points per out method promotes teaming up. Like you, I mean, technically, you should want to all get the guy out in four because he's going to keep accumulating points. And then that person in four changes when you get them out, and then you want to get that next person out until you're in there, and then everybody should be ganging up on you. So, um, but with the out method, I do think it minimizes that,
it does.
but it doesn't take it away.
No, and
Yeah.
that's the thing, it's always going to be there. And of course, with this prior weekend, there was quite a few people who, in the men's division who were a lot of them were friends with one another.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
of course they're gonna work together.
Hmm.
It's natural.
It is, yeah. And
It,
it's
it
I'm not a race car guy. I don't know if you are, but I know enough about to know that I believe it's similar to that, right? So you have teammates when you're doing NASCAR racing,
it's yes,
right?
yep,
And
you do.
at the end of the day, it's just you to win, but you can help your teammates with was it drifting and certain things that or getting
Yeah,
in the way of other
you
people.
can
Yeah,
help your teammates draft and such,
yeah,
and help them get to a better position to score more points.
yeah,
So,
yeah, yeah,
that's very similar to this where
yeah,
you can help your buddies out.
yeah. So, I mean, again, it's part of the game. I think if there's if there's verbal teaming up, then that's then that's a giveaway right there where you would need to probably take action as from an official standpoint. Like, hey, listen, you
But
can't
how
do
do you, yeah, but how is
how
there
would you?
really a
Yeah,
rule?
well,
There's
you're
really
right.
nothing,
Yeah,
there is
there's
nothing
nothing
wrong with
governing
team,
against it. You're right.
right?
You're right.
Which is it unfair? Mm, but
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Yeah, because even if you heard somebody say, I mean, let's say you're officiating right there, and you heard, "Hey, you and I, let's get him out together." I mean, as an official, you could say, I mean, you can say, "Hey, you're not really supposed to do that," but there's nothing in the rules that govern against
no.
it.
And to be
Um,
honest, like me personally, I wouldn't say anything. It's like
yeah,
that's rude,
yeah,
but that's fair.
yeah. It's against the that's right. It's an unwritten rule that really you're not supposed to do, but there's nothing. It's like bunting with a no hitter in the ninth inning. Like you can do it. You're gonna get hit the next time you're up, but you can do it.
Yeah.
So I guess if you got certain players and competitors out there that want to kind of I don't know play that way, then
Maybe
then so be it.
maybe you just need to be a better player to counter that.
Yeah, that's true. Which is a wonderful segue into the next part of the agenda here, which is slamming or spikes. I think we all know what that is. We had quite a lot of that happening, which again is not bad. That's part of the game. Like that's a move that you can absolutely do.
As long as it's, open-handed.
Yes,
Well, actually, let's
actually,
continue this because
yeah.
there is a small tangent I want to go into.
Okay, you go for it. Go for it.
So
Yeah.
I've always slamming, spiking. We've always, of course, open-handed the easiest. When I was growing up, if you will, playing
Hmm.
this, back in high school, we did something called the hammer, which is the
Yeah.
bottom of your fist, and you just
Yeah.
hammer it.
Yeah.
Um, Now there's a rule that says no fists allowed. Now, does that the whole fist or is that really knuckles? That's something I wanted to discuss with you at some point.
Yeah, I actually think that there may have been a error. I think that fists are allowed as long as it's your hand. And I think somebody asked, and I honestly, I don't know if I just gave the wrong answer or if I consulted with Dan or somebody else, and I just didn't remember. And so we ended up going with no fists during this championship round or during this championship, which I was looking back at the rules, and I think I'll have to look again, but I think I saw actually, no, you can do fists. Um, and I wonder if one, should we? Is that right? And then to your point, all right, specifically, is that the knuckles? Is it the palm of your fist? I think technically it can be anything as long as you're hitting the ball basically with that like line that separates your
Yep,
your hand and
above your
your
wrist. Yep.
wrist, right, up to the tips of your fingers. All of that is in play anywhere on your hand as long as it's one deliberate strike, right?
Yes.
So I mean, if you just close your fingers and create a fist and hit the ball like that, I think that should be legal. I think that that should be part of the game.
I agree.
It, okay, you do agree. Okay.
I
Okay.
wholeheartedly agree.
Okay.
You know, now here's the gray area of knuckles.
Hmm.
What's wrong with knuckles? Honestly, nothing. Now, is knuckles a good gameplay? Depends on how well you used it. If you can control the direction of the hit with your knuckles, great on you.
Yeah.
But I've seen more times than not people doing knuckles, and
Yep.
it
And it goes,
doesn't really hit the
yep.
ground
Yep.
in the square that you're aiming for. It typically hits people, men below the waistline
Yeah. Yeah.
or kids in the face.
Yeah. Yeah. And yeah.
And so that's the
Yeah.
thing. It's,
Yeah.
you know, what's right and wrong. It depends
Hmm.
on if you're leaning towards safety or what
Hmm.
have you.
What I and this isn't the only item that this I think applies to this fists conversation. And we've had a few just in this show, but I think what I want to do, and I'd love Joe and Dan when you listen to this, I'd love your guys' opinions. I'm going to gather up these open-ended types of questions,
Yep.
and maybe we do some sort of like quarterly newsletter with everybody that is on the distribution list. And we sent, hey, here from this quarter, here are the six, questions, or here, vote on like knuckles, yes or no, or fist, yes or no. What, and we just have a vote, and then that way we all are aligned, at least from a majority standpoint. It's kind of like George Washington and John Adams and Thomas Jefferson when they had to, write the Declaration of
Yep.
Independence. They were tipping four squares upside down. We're flushing it out, and here's the way that we all deem it should be played at a competitive, maybe someday professional standpoint. Because there are so many variances in the rules. Certain people believe in certain ways. Certain people played it a different way when they grew up. There's no right or wrong. We're just trying to all get together on what we think is the
Yep.
best way to play.
Exactly.
Yeah, love that. Well, I think that might be our time to sign off. It looks like Dan is not able to join us here during this show. But we are actually going to have a second show. We usually do this monthly, but we just have so much to cover. We're coming off the heels of the championships. So next week, we are going to go ahead and have a second show. I think we'll even have another guest, little surprise guest. How about that? We'll do a little surprise guest
Ooh.
action next
Who's
week.
going to be on?
Who's it going to be? And by the way, you're listening to this, first of all, thank you. Please do the whole like, subscribe, comment, all those things.
It's like subscribe, share, comment.
Yes, and yell from the rooftops, like just tell everybody about it. Um, And if you want to be on the show, please feel free to reach out. If you have any questions, if you don't like what we're saying, if you disagree, if you agree, we would love the interaction. So please
Yep.
feel free to let us know. Otherwise, I think we will sign off. Joe, thank you so much for your first. You survived. You did it. Excellent. We're gonna have you on all the time. I think you are very passionate, just like how we are, and you have a lot of knowledge and a lot of experience and a lot of different, takes on things, which I think
Yep.
is good. So,
No,
um,
it was an honor to be on here today, and
yeah,
certainly looking forward to the next episode.
awesome. Yep. So look out for that. Otherwise, hope everyone has a great rest of the day. Thanks, everyone.
Have a good rest of the day and enjoy your weekend, everybody.
That's right. Thanks, Joe.
Have
Till
a good
next
one.
time. Yep. Bye.